friends, students, teachers, teacher educators. Today we are going to discuss and understand a very important philosopher, Paulo Freire, and about his philosophy of education. It's important whenever you're looking at a philosopher, it's extremely important to look at the biography of that philosopher. What were the influences and how did he begin by writing all about the philosophy of education? Let us look at the biography of Paulo Freire first, then move on to his ideas or his concepts which he used in education. Paulo Freire was born in 1921 in Recife, Brazil. In 1947, he began work with adult illiterates in northeast Brazil and gradually evolved a method of work which the word conscientization has been associated. We are going to discuss the meaning of the word conscientization later. Until 1964, he was a professor of history and philosophy of education in the University of Recife, and in the 1960s, he was involved with a popular education movement to deal with massive illiteracy. From 1962, there were widespread experiments with his method, and the movement was extended under the patronage of the federal government. In 1963-64, there were courses for coordinators in all Brazilian states, and a plan was drawn up for the establishment of 2000 cultural circles to reach 220 lakh illiterates. Look at the number. Freire was imprisoned following the 1964 coup, for which and for what the new regime considered to be subversive elements in his teaching. That means they considered there were elements in his teaching which were leading to subversion, which were not up to the mark with reference to the present regime. He next appeared in exile in Chile, where his method was used, and the UN School of Political Sciences held seminars on his work. In 1969-70, he was visiting professor at the Center for the Study of Development and Social Change at the Harvard University. He then went to the World Council of Churches in Geneva, where in 1970 he took up a post as special consultant in the Office of Education. Over the next 9 years in that post, he advised on education reform and initiated popular education activities with a range of groups. Paulo Freire was able to return to Brazil by 1979. Freire joined the Workers' Party in Sao Paulo and headed up its adult literacy project for 6 years. When the party took control of Sao Paulo municipality following elections in 1988, it is important to look at this development. Paulo Freire was appointed as Sao Paulo's Secretary of Education. Now, looking at this biography, you see that Paulo Freire started teaching. He had a degree in law, he also had a degree in education, and now he ventured into first educating the illiterate peasants in Brazil, right? Now, what are the concepts which Paulo Freire has given us? And I am quoting his concepts from Paulo Freire's website. And these are important concepts. The first important concept which it says is praxis. What is the meaning of praxis? Praxis is the act of engaging with people. It is the act of involving people. He says it is not enough for people to come together in dialogue in order to gain knowledge of their social reality. And he also defines dialogue. He says dialogue is an encounter of ideas between men, right? There are two people, and when they interact, there is an encounter of their ideas, which he says is dialogue. And he says it is not very enough that to gain knowledge of the social reality, you just engage in dialogue. They must act together upon their environment in order to critically reflect upon their reality and so to transform it through further action and critical reflection. Now, there are two very important words. That means, what is Paulo Freire talking of? He is saying that just engaging by dialogue, just by verbalism, just by discussing a concept, it doesn't change anything on the ground. Social reality does not become different only by engaging in dialogue. It is very important that you take action. You act upon that reality. You try to think about it. You critically reflect upon it. And when you're going to critically reflect upon it, looking at its advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses, only then through your action you would be able to change their reality. And if you are not indulging in any kind of reflection or action, then you are not going to understand anything about that social reality. Now, he has used another very, very important concept of generative themes. He says that an epoch is characterized by a complex of ideas, concepts, hopes, doubts, values, and challenges in dialectical interaction with their opposites, striving towards fulfillment. The concrete representation of these constitute the themes of the epoch. That means it's extremely important that every phase, every generation looks at a certain ideas. There are certain hopes, there are certain values which also have a kind of relationship that they are challenged. And when they are challenged, both of them coexist together. That is dialectics. That means there is thesis and there is antithesis. When both of them coexist, they lead towards fulfillment of a goal. Okay. This is very, very important with reference to reality, that we look at reality from different perspectives. For example, we may say that in our society, some of these themes would be to include the power of bureaucratic control or the social exclusion of the elderly and the disabled. In social analysis, these themes may be discovered in a concrete representation in which the opposite theme is also revealed. For example, if you see the social inclusion of the elderly and the disabled, on the other hand, you see the social exclusion of the elderly and the disabled, and then you see complete centralization by bureaucratic control, but you also see decentralization of power. So both these opposites interact with each other, and that makes our social reality. Then he talks of the Easter experience. What exactly is the Easter experience? Paulo Freire says that those who authentically, very, very important, authentically, really, with all their heart and spirit, commit themselves to people, people means for the service of people, must re-examine themselves constantly. It's very, very important that you re-examine yourself with reference to your knowledge, with reference to your skills, and with reference to your attitudes. Unless you keep re-examining yourself, it would be very difficult for you to upgrade yourself or to continue to strive yourself with reference to committing to people. This conversion is so radical as not to allow for ambivalent behavior. There is no scope for you, indulging in behavior which is not in consonance with for the service of people. Conversion to the people requires a profound rebirth. That means if you dedicate your lives, look at the life of Mother Teresa, look at the life of Swami Vivekananda, right? They are live examples in front of us. These were people who devoted their lives in the service of people. So, when you devote your life, it's like a rebirth, right? It's like your rebirth because you have to rise above me, myself. He says those who undergo it must take a new form of existence. They can no longer remain as they were. That means you need to have certain very, very important qualities, such as you need to love people, you need to trust people, you need to be an individual who's very empathetic, who's ready to himself or herself put yourself in other person's shoes, right? These are very, very important qualities, especially as a teacher or a teacher educator, which Paulo Freire has also outlined in very phenomenal works of his, like the Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which he has written, Pedagogy of Hope, where he completely details that how a student-teacher relationship in a classroom, right, becomes that of a relationship of an oppressor and the oppressed. He says to enter into dialogue. A dialogue is a very important theme in his writings. He says to enter into dialogue, it presupposes equality among participants. It is very, very important. That means between a teacher and a taught, it has to be a relationship of equals. A relationship where I do not say that I am more powerful. I am not in an autocratic mode in a classroom, where I do not exercise control over my students. That means each must trust the others. There must be mutual respect and love. And when there is mutual respect and love, automatically there is care and commitment, right? Each one must question what he or she knows and realize that through dialogue, existing thoughts will change and new knowledge will be created. Because Paulo Freire believed that dialogue is a very, very important means, right, through which you can transform the world by acting on it, by reflecting on it. It's very, very important that meaningful dialogue between a teacher and a taught, okay, in the society is very, and this dialogue becomes hollow if it is not followed by any kind of reflection or any kind of action on our part. So, we constantly need to have arguments, we constantly need to have discussions or current issues such that we need to or we engage in transforming the world for the better. Then a very, very important concept is conscientization. He says the process of developing a critical awareness of one's social reality through reflection and action. Very, very, very important. That means I am very, very conscious of what is going on around me. I am conscious with reference to the population of my country. I am conscious with reference to the poor and the downtrodden. I am conscious to the plight of the disabled. I am conscious to the challenges of a democratic society. I am conscious to whatever is in my surrounding. I am conscious that what it entails to be a responsible citizen of this country. So, action is fundamental. Now, when I am conscious, it is very, very important that if I am conscious, I am going to reflect upon it. I am going to think about it critically. And once I am going to think about it critically, I am also going to act upon it. Unless you act upon the reality, it does not change. So, action is fundamental because it is the process of changing the reality. If you want to change anything, even if we take a simple example of keeping your school clean or keeping your classroom clean, it has to begin with the thought of understanding the need of cleanliness. It has to begin by engaging in a dialogue, by telling your peers not to litter the class. And ultimately, it has to begin by acting, by engaging and by not littering your class. Or if it has been littered, you all together come together and clean it up. He says that we all acquire social myths which have a dominant tendency, and so learning is a critical process which depends upon uncovering real problems and actual needs. Unless there is a learning which uncovers your social reality, which enables you, which tells you about what exactly is happening, what exactly is the social reality, and how you can be an instrument of change, he says that is very, very important. And this process where there is critical awareness of one's own social reality by reflecting upon it and by acting upon it is called conscientization, the concept which Paulo Freire has given us. Another very, very important theme in the philosophy of education of Paulo Freire is codification. That is, there is a way of gathering information in order to build up picture, that is codification, around real situations and real people, right. This, when you gather a picture about real situation or real picture, this entire process is called codification. And decodification is a process by which people in a group start identifying with a certain aspect of a situation by being a part of that situation, by being able to critically reflect upon that situation. That means if you are living in an urban situation and if you do not understand the exact problems of the poor, if you go to a slum or if you go to a community where people are not very well off, you live there, you understand, so that process of decodification will enable you to understand that what exactly it is, what are the problems, what are the trials, what are the challenges of being poor. So, it is like a photographer bringing a picture into focus. Now, a very, very important concept which Paulo Freire has given is the banking concept of knowledge. If you know, what do you go to a bank for? You either go to a bank to deposit or either you go to a bank to withdraw. He says that the whole problem with education is that it started functioning like a bank. That is, what do teachers do? They deposit information into the minds of children as if they are just vases to be filled with water, right? And filled with information. And it is nothing like knowledge creation per se. So it's like the deposit in a bank. So he called that banking concept of knowledge. He says the concept of education in which knowledge is a gift bestowed by those who consider themselves knowledgeable upon those whom they consider to know nothing. That means in a teaching learning situation, here, therefore, he wrote the book Pedagogy of the Oppressed. He says a teacher is the person who's an authority, has the entire control over the classroom teaching learning situation, and this teacher considers himself or herself to be more knowledgeable than those sitting in front or than those who are his or her students, right? So the entire situation is an unequal situation, right? There is no equality with reference to the power relations because a teacher here is in a position of power and this teacher is educating those whom he or she considers to be less knowledgeable or people or students who know nothing with reference to what is being taught, right? And he says the idea of the culture of silence, very, very important. Generally, if you see classrooms are generally places which are very silent, right? And you say that if there is complete silence, it is a disciplined class. I would say if it's complete silence, it's a dead class. It's a class which is very passive. It's a class which is not interactive. It is a class where there is no joyful learning. It is a class where children are not engaged in active learning, and therefore it is a class which is without any feedback and without any challenge. And the only thing which is practiced in this class is the culture of silence, wherein people are unable to reflect critically upon their world, they become fatalistic and they are dominated. That means if you look at such a classroom teaching learning situation wherein this culture of silence is practiced, what you will find? You will find children not raising any questions. You will find a teacher there who continuously engages on monologue. There is no scope for any dialogue. The teacher neither asks questions nor is open to the idea of engaging students by asking or raising meaningful questions. All which you find in this classroom is students attending a dull and monotonous class very silently, right? It is a class which is teacher dominated, and it is a class where only a banking concept of knowledge, that means the teacher is trying to deposit information into the minds of children. Now, Paulo Freire's work has influenced people's work in education, community development, community health, and many other fields. He has developed an approach to education that links the identification of issues to positive action for change and development. That is, while Paulo Freire's original work was in adult literacy, his approach leads us to think about how we can read the society around us. Now, if you look at the concept which we have just discussed, a very, very important concept in Paulo Freire's philosophy of education which emerged was dialogue. That means you are talking of a classroom where children engage in healthy dialogue not only with the teacher but also with the peers. And this healthy dialogues enables them to understand their social reality around them, right? They are being educated, but Paulo Freire has very clearly said, education which does not lead to the transformation of reality is not education at all. So, education is extremely important. It should be an extremely important tool for social empowerment. And if it is to emerge as a tool of social empowerment, praxis of engaging them is very, very important. Engaging them by meaningful questions, engaging them by dialogue, engaging them by discussing case studies, engaging them by taking them to community work, engaging them by involving them in meaningful projects is extremely important, such that they understand how to transform their immediate reality. He says education is not just for information, education is for making them people who are critical thinkers. Education is for making them people who are problem solvers. Education is to equip them with the kind of life skills such that they creatively are able to find solutions to the plethora of problems not only in their lives but also in the lives of those around them. Right? He says an education which is not having this role of transformation or which is not emancipatory in character is not education. Education should lead to freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from oppression. And therefore, when he writes this book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, he says that here the teacher usually emerges as the oppressor, and those who are oppressed, the students, don't even know most of the times that they are being oppressed. They are students who are being continuously conditioned to believe whatever is being given to them is the best form of information, and that is the only source through which they can help or seek support for their knowledge creation, which refutes the entire idea of education being a tool for social transformation. And Paulo Freire, since he started working with illiterate peasants, right, and he started absolutely engaging them in these issues and started teaching them such that they become instruments in their own lives to change their own lives, so that they become free from freedom or they get freedom from disease, they get freedom from poverty, they are able to champion their own rights, they are able to fight for their human rights. He says this is education in the true sense of the word, an education which leads to the transformation of my reality. This transformation of reality takes place by engaging them by mutual love and trust, by being committed to them with reference to serving the masses. For Freire, educational process is never ever neutral. He says that it's very, very important to understand that education is political in nature. People can be passive recipients of knowledge, whatever be the content, or they can engage in a problem solving approach in which they become active participants. One where they are passive, one they are not engaging in dialogue, they are not engaging in any kind of questioning, they are absolutely passive. Other, the problem solving approach, they are active, they are ready to challenge their existing realities. And he says as a part of this approach, it is very essential that people link knowledge to action, so that they actively work to change their societies at the local level and beyond. Again, he is talking of transformation through action, and therefore he says that education can never be neutral. It is essentially political in nature. A typical feature of Freire type education is that people bring their own knowledge and experience into the process. It's very, very important. When you consider that the child sitting in front of you knows nothing and you have all the knowledge in the world, it defeats the entire concept of the Freirean type of education, or it reinforces the concept of banking type of education. So it's very, very important to acknowledge that the child sitting in front of you is knowledgeable and is an active participant in the process of knowledge creation. He says training is typically undertaken in small groups with lively interaction. Very, very important. That means the teacher-student ratio has to be, say, 1:10 or 1:15, and can embrace not only the written word but art, music and other forms of expression, which are very, very important tools to empower and to make people learn. Now, when you look at the entire philosophy of Paulo Freire, it's very, very important to look at some of the quotes which he has given us. He says, attempting to liberate the oppressed without their reflective participation in the act of liberation is to treat them as objects that must be saved from a burning building. That means if the person who is oppressed is not participating in the very act of his emancipation or freedom, this is not an act of liberation. You are actively actually oppressing them, because liberation has to come from the people who need to be liberated. They need to be active participants in this process of liberation or to move towards their emancipation or freedom. Then he also says leaders who do not act dialogically but insist on imposing their decisions, autocratically of course, do not organize the people, they manipulate them. That means if you're talking of organizing people, you're not organizing people when you're imposing your decisions upon them. You have to have a decision making process which is participatory, which involves all the stakeholders. And these people who impose their decisions, and teachers are very important leaders in the classroom, right? They do not liberate, nor do they get liberated, they oppress. Very, very important. That means your role as a teacher becomes that of an oppressor. Why? Because you're not engaging in any dialogue. You're not making students participants in active decision making in the classroom. So what do? You manipulate them, and as a result, you end up oppressing them, right? That means the teacher becomes the oppressor, therefore he wrote the pedagogy of the oppressed, and we have the students as the oppressed. Then another very phenomenal work of Paulo Freire is from the Politics of Education, the book he wrote. He says, washing one's hands of the conflict between the powerful and the powerless means to side with the powerful, not to be neutral. If you say, I'm not going to be the voice of the powerless, right? I'm not going to side with those people who don't have the voice of their own. You are not being neutral. You are basically siding with the powerful. It is also extremely important that when you look at Paulo Freire's philosophy, the entire philosophy is based on education which transforms social reality. To summarize, important themes in Paulo Freire's philosophy are dialogue, codification, right, emancipation or freedom by the act of reflection and action through education. And he says it's very, very important that you engage in dialogue in a classroom teaching learning situation. Don't consider students to be empty heads or vases to be filled. Have knowledge creation collaboratively such that both the teacher and the taught learn together. It's not teaching from A to B, it is A with B, right? So this is education which is transformatory in its character, and education in the true sense of the word, which leads to transformation and which leads to enlightenment, such that we create a world which is more humane, which is more just and more fair.